So today we're going to talk about a little bit more of an advanced move, but I think that if you learn how to do this move early on when studying card magic, you're going to be able to do a lot of things that you wouldn't be able to do ordinarily. So the move is going to be the spread Cull. Now I have a couple videos talking about different ideas with the spread Cull. I do have a video on YouTube where I break down the spread Cull, and I do have another tutorial on Patreon where I talk about the spread Cull. But really I'm approaching this as a beginner. So as basic as possible and its applications. But hopefully through that you could see the versatility of this move. Now for those of you guys that don't know, spread Cull is a way of controlling cards secretly underneath a spread of cards. So this card is just taken underneath the spread and controlled as the rest of the cards are spread to a specific position or to the bottom of the deck. That is a spread Cull. Now where this technique is useful is when you want to either force a card or control specific cards. So let's say we want to cull the fourth card from the top of the deck. So what we're going to do is we're going to spread the top four cards just like this. Now this third card over here, we're going to align it as best we can with that fourth card. So this is going to be a little bit of a hard thing to do at first because typically you're not going to be able to align it properly every time. But as long as you follow the card itself and use your pinky as a guide, you're going to be able to get that card squared up every single time. Now notice, because of your thumb's placement, it's already going to be in position to put pressure, which is exactly what it needs to do. So the first two steps is you're spreading to that fourth card. The next step is that you're using your pinky as a guide to square that card up, the third card up with the fourth card. And you're putting pressure with your thumb, which is already there to begin with. Now here's where we're going to do the moves underneath. Notice my fingertips are already underneath touching this fourth card from the top of the deck. Now what's going to happen is that my right fingertips are going to pull that card towards the right at the same time that my thumb is putting pressure on that third card. Now what that's going to do, because the opposing pressure, that card is just going to slide by itself and hide underneath the other cards. Now you want to slide it all the way until you feel that little click. That little click in the lower left corner in this case, that's what's going to indicate to you that the entire card's length has made its way and it's hiding underneath the spread. So remember, all this is happening covered by those top three cards. So this card over here, the cards spread underneath, and that card rides along the entire spread, hidden by the spread itself from the front. So another hot tip here is that you want to make sure that you're putting pressure with your fingertips so that this card doesn't stick out. That's one thing that tends to happen when you are first learning the move. So make sure to put pressure. And don't worry about the cards because of the nature and the position of the card, all the other cards are going to go directly above it. So don't worry about that. And with that, you have successfully culled the card all the way to the bottom of the deck. So one more time, we're culling the fourth card. We're spreading to that fourth card. We're using our pinky as a guide to square that card up. And we're pressing with our thumb. We're using our fingertips underneath to slide that card towards the right as we continue to spread. So now that card is riding underneath. Remember, we're putting pressure on that card so that the card doesn't accidentally get inside of the deck. And with that, we have controlled that card to the bottom of the deck. Now, of course, this isn't the only application for this technique. Now, let's assume that we want to force this card on the spectator. How are we going to do that? We're going to get into the exact same mechanics. However, this time we're going to employ a technique by Darwin Ortiz. So the way that works is we're going to spread the cards. Remember, we're assuming the fourth card is going to be the fourth card here, which is going to be the 5 of spades. So we're going to do the exact same action. We're squaring it up. We're using our pinky as a guide. However, this time, we're going to let go with our right hand right before we do the action of taking the card. We're going to let go. And the reason for this is we're going to tell the spectator to touch any card they want. So we're going to let go. We're going to have the spectator touch any card they want. We're going to say, sir, I want you to touch any card they want, just in the face. And when you regrip, this is when you do the pulling action as you spread and have the spectator touch whichever card they want. The reason for this is that you are breaking down the move into 2 steps as opposed to trying to do it in one continuous step. So this allows you to regrip so that you could call that card without any sort of fishy action. This is a wonderful tip by Darwin Ortiz. So one more time, you're spreading 4 cards. You're squaring that card up using the pinky as a guide. You're telling the spectator that in a moment they're going to touch whichever card they want. And as you spread the rest of the cards, that's when you do the culling move. So they touch whichever card they want. Let's say they touch this one. Now notice what's happening. This card has been riding along the entire way. So now it's directly above the card that they touched. So all we would need to do at this point is square up the deck, and that card has been switched for the card that was originally fourth from the top of the deck. So you see now you could turn that card over in one action, and you have successfully forced that card. So let's go over that one more time in a little bit of detail here. So remember, we spread 4 cards. We squared this up. We tell the spectator that they're going to touch whichever card they want. At that point, we do the actual action of the Cull. We're spreading through the cards. The spectator touches any card they want. In this case, is this one. We separate this half from the rest of the deck. Remember, this card is riding along. Now, the tendency is going to be to square the cards up in a haphazard or a drawing action. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that it's a nice squaring action. So I square it up against my thumb until I feel that bottom card hit. Then I turn the whole packet over, thumb off the single card, and I've successfully forced that card. Now, if you want to show the spectator the card and not see it yourself, it's going to be the same action. So in this case, again, we're calling the 4th card from the top of the deck. We're doing the same exact actions. The spectator is touching any card they want. And in this case, we're squaring it up with our thumb, and then we're showing it to the spectator and asking him to remember that card in particular. So that way we don't turn it over and we don't see the card ourselves. So the spectator sees it, and they apparently have no idea that you know the exact identity of this card. So that's how that would work. So from the front, it would just look like this. You're just squaring the card up against your thumb and showing the spectator the card and telling him don't forget it. Then at that point, you can square it up and do whatever control you want. So that way you have effectively forced the card that you want forth from the top of the deck. Now, you can use this technique as a control in a couple different ways. So the first way that I'm going to teach you is as a key card placement. So let's say that we know the 4th card from the deck is the 7 of spades. So what's going to happen is that we're going to do the exact same actions as before. We're going to spread 3. We're going to square it up. We're going to call that card as we're spreading and asking the spectator to touch any card they want. In this case, let's say they touch this card over here, which is going to be the 9 diamonds. This time, instead of having the card underneath, so we have the card that we've called underneath, we're actually going to move this card that the spectator touched and put that card over the card that we're calling. The reason for this is that this card over here that we know is now going to act as the key card for the spectator's selected card. So in this case, we know that the 7 of spades is the card that we're calling. We don't know the spectator selected card, which in this case is the 9 of diamonds. However, when we turn up and show this card to the spectator as the card they touched and score up the deck very fairly, we know that their card is going to be directly below the 7 of spades. So when we spread the deck, for whatever reason, we're going to know that that key card indicates to us that this card right here to the right is going to be the spectator's card. So that's one method of controlling the cards. And at this point, if you want to control it to the top in an easy way, you say, and I want you to remember, you shuffle these cards, you mix them up, you didn't do any sort of weird sort of shuffles. You had a very thorough shuffle, sir. And of course, in that action, we've cut their card to the top. All I'm doing there is spreading to the key card and cutting at that point as I'm gesturing to the spectator, saying whatever I want to say. Oh, sir, did you get your dental work done today? Okay, that's really interesting. Whatever needs to be done for you to be able to cut that card and the attention be away from the cards themselves. So that is using the Cull as a key card placement. If you want to use the Cull as a control, there's another easier way to do this. Now, typically what I've seen in Magic is this technique done in this sort of way. So we spread the cards, we have the spectator touch whichever card they want. In this case, it's going to be the Ace of Clubs. That card is then called, controlled to the top of the deck, and now that card is controlled. Now, where I think that there's a fault in that action is that the card seems to disappear in the spread. And I've seen this done by even top magicians, that they ask for whatever card to be touched and picked, and in this case, it's the 9 of spades. That card disappears as the rest of the cards are spread, and it just becomes a very noticeable action. So here's a way that I think makes the action infinitely easier, as well as covers it up just a little bit. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to employ use of a technique by John Kerry, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to spread the cards. We're going to call any card we want. We're going to call just a random card. So as we're spreading, we're going to do the same exact action. Remember, we're using our pinky to square up the card. In this case, we're going to call the 3 of spades. Right there, we're going to put our pinky and use that to square up the cards. We're pressing back with our fingertips, and we're asking the spectator to touch any card they want. Let's say they touch the 6 of diamonds. Now notice, I'm separating this 6 of diamonds, and this card is directly behind it. Now what I'm going to do is the same exact mechanics. I'm going to square everything up with my thumb. I'm going to turn over both halves, thumb off this top card, and flip over this half on top of the deck. So the spectators are going to assume that this is the 6 of diamonds. Really, it's switched out for the card that we've called. So now we can square this card up very cleanly with the deck, and the 6 of diamonds is on top. Wonderful alternative, and this time it's a lot more fair than doing the classic technique of saying, okay, you touched the Queen of Hearts, okay, you could have touched any one of these cards, sir, your card's on top, or whatever the trick entails. So in this case, one more time, we're calling any card, any random card is just being called, as the spectator is asked to touch any card they want. In this case, let's say they touch the 4 of hearts. Remember, this cold card is going directly above their card, so that when we say, okay, don't forget the 4 of hearts, and when we square it up, that's when the switch is executed. We're turning over both halves at the same time, using our left thumb to take this top card, which they assume is their card now, and we're going to turn over everything in the right hand on top of this whole situation. That's going to allow us to square that card in and get that card controlled directly to the top without any sort of excess action. What a beautiful move. Again, you have John Kerry to thank for that. The next and last thing here is the control from a face-down spread. Now here we're going to make use of the Solomon slider principle. This is by David Solomon. He's a wonderful magician. He was one of the crew that hung out with Ed Marlowe, so he was able to absorb a lot of that information. And here we're going to employ a use of a technique known as the Solomon slider principle. Now it's something that I've talked about in other videos about the Cull, and I think that it's something that makes it infinitely easier, which you're going to see in a little bit. So for this, we're going to spread the cards. We're going to call any card we want. Once again, we're squaring that card up using our pinky as a guide. We're pressing with our thumb. We're pulling with our fingertips towards the right as we're spreading the cards. So the spectator touches any card they want. In this case, what's going to happen is that that cold card is going to go behind the spectator's card. Usually, we've done this that the card goes in front. This time, it's going behind the spectator's card. So the spectator touches any card they want. We're putting the cold card behind the card they touch, and we're bringing up our hands and showing it to the spectator. Now, this is a discrepancy. They shouldn't be able to see this if you were doing it normally. If you were doing this normally, this is what they would see, right? However, nobody will ever catch you on this. Nobody will ever call you on, hey, how come I'm seeing an extra card there? That doesn't really make sense, sir. So here, we're showing this situation to the spectator. As we move our hand down, that slider card is going to reduce the friction on this card with the rest of the deck. So this card is going to very easily slide along the face of that card as we move our hands down. So what that looks like in action is like this, just like this. So what that's done is that that's moved their card all the way towards the right, and it's exposed this card in the left, which is going to be assumed to be the spectator's card. Now at this point, you could even outjog this card as these other 2 cards come and get slid right underneath to the bottom of the deck, where have you controlled their card to the bottom of the deck without any sort of excess action. So one more time, we're calling any card, in this case the King of Hearts. They touch any card they want. You're placing their card above the cold card. Remember that? Now, as your hand turns down, your fingertips are going to slide that card towards the right. And if you want, you could either outjog the card that is showing, which is going to be any random X card, or you could just square everything up, spreading the rest of the cards, making sure that that bottom card goes in the bottom, and you've controlled that card to the bottom of the deck without any sort of extra action or noticeable fingertip action. So let's do that at speed. We're calling any card. Spectator touches the card. In this case, it's the 5 of hearts. That card is squared up with the rest of the deck, and in that action, we have the 5 of hearts in the bottom of the deck. So you see the versatility of this control and how easy that makes it, because if it wasn't for that Solomon slider card, the way this would look like is like this. So let's assume the spectator touched the 5 of clubs. At this point, we would have to do the scoring action. At this point, we would have to do the pulling action. And in that, now the 5 of clubs control to the bottom of the deck, which could be done very well. However, it's a move that's definitely worth its value when you use that slider principle. So those are just a couple of different techniques using a spread call and a force and a key card placement and a couple of different controls with that. Now, if you guys want to learn a trick using a spread call, look at the video that I'm uploading today on the other Patreon for the other tiers, because that is going to employ the spread call to have a very, very effective way of doing the classic Chicago opener / red hot mama trick. So make sure to look at that after this video if you guys want to learn a good trick that uses the spread call itself. It does use another technique in the reverse fan, which you guys are going to have to learn how to do. However, if that doesn't work, you could use one of the many forces that I've taught in the previous lessons. So make sure to look out for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That is one of my favorite moves, and I think it's one of the more versatile moves in all of Magic. It just allows for pretty much anything to be done with a deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you guys again for being hot patrons in the Pick K Card Academy, and I hope you guys are getting something out of this. See you guys on the next one.